Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCritic Live. This is a podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. I'm your host, Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today, as I already messed up the very first line. Well, it's Thanksgiving week. I mean, here's the thing. We're all ready to enjoy a long weekend of turkey, cranberry desserts, and Black Friday sales. In fact, when you listen to this, I'm going to try to have it up the day before Thanksgiving because, you've got better things to do with your Thanksgiving than listening to me talk. But that being said, maybe there's a time where you don't want to be watching the football game or whatever. I don't know. Viewers of my channel and listeners of this podcast don't strike me particularly as sports fans. You might have a few minutes to step away and listen to this podcast. Who knows? So this is for you, and thank you so much. Now, for those of you who who this is their first time here, first of all, we've been having a great run of guest stars. We had James B. Stewart, the author of Disney War, around, and we had Bill Huntz from the Digital Bit talking about streaming and physical media and the future of that, and hopefully we can have both those men back at some point. And we're working on more interviews with other people. But today, I want to talk about something that actually kind of got this channel kick-started beyond my very initial eBay videos day. Seriously, go back to some of the first videos I made. They were about eBay and PayPal, and I'm still having issues with eBay and PayPal, so some things never change. But the Simpsons DVDs being canceled was one of my first major hit videos on this channel, and so The Simpsons has a special place in my heart for this channel, and was some news that took place last week while I was out of town and doing the interview with James B. Stewart in the bunkers of Nashville, Tennessee, where Pamela Anderson, I think that's what her name is. I butcher names, like it's another thing. One of the actors decided she was going to retire from voice acting. Now, if you're watching the video podcast on the YouTube channel, that's not the actress that retired. That is Harry Shearer, and as you can see, at one point, he quit the show. He voiced Mr. Burns and Smithers, and I believe Ned Flanders, and he walked away from a $14 million deal, and as the article wrote, Shearer, who has voiced characters on the show since 1989, has taken to Twitter, which is now X, to announce his departure, asserting that the decision wasn't about money. He is rejecting a reported $14 million offer for 2 years' work, as well as terms that the other 5 principal actors accepted, suggesting instead that the dispute centered on his freedom to do other work. Now, James L. Brooks wished him well, and he said, "Thank you, Simpsons fans, for your support." Now, as you see, James L. Brooks, who I love his Simpsons avatar, he has himself drawn like the Simpsons, says, "Hey, we tried. We're still trying. Harry, no kidding. Let's talk." I mean, this is why Brooks is a producer, because he has to manage these things. Now, in his communication with CNN Money, Shearer wrote, "In the last 4 years, I've created and starred in a UK TV series and starred on London stage, not stopping." Now, this news was met with very negative response. I mean, it's Harry Shearer, one of the original voice actors. The character is not going to be the same. Are you kidding me? And so when he came back, people were happy that he came back because it was like no one likes to see the originals leave. Now, it should be noted, this news was in 2015. So this is like 9 years ago that this news hit. I didn't even think The Simpsons would last other 9 years. It's looking like it's going to get to season 40 at this point, and if it gets there, it's going to be like, okay, so I have half of the show on physical media and Blu-ray, and boy, I would love to have the rest. But, Disney's going to Disney. They want everything about Disney Plus. Well, was it this year or was it last year? There was a little clip that went viral, and you can see from this headline that reads, "Simpsons fans left shocked by Mr. Burns' awful voice in latest season." This was May of 2024. Now, let me see if we can have the clip here. I'm gonna have to put the clip into post edit for the video, but let's take a quick break, and here's what it sounds like.
I'm still getting used to saying that. A little something special for your birthday.
A Twitter gift card?
No, I bought you Twitter. The whole company. It was a bargain. The previous owner had to sell it after his self-driving Mars rocket crashed into the International Space Station.
And as you can see, or hear, really, that sounds pretty bad. It doesn't sound really like Mr. Burns. Like, the weirdest thing about that is that it sounds like Mr. Burns is on life support. Mr. Burns has always looked like he's on life support, but never before has he sounded so frail. And one fan actually said, Burns' voice is just brutal, man. Let these people retire in peace. And one person compared it to a fan dub. And the thing is, guys, Harry Shearer makes $300,000 per episode, roughly. So it's not like he's being forced to do this. There's even rumors that he literally phones in the conversation to the point where it's like, he'll call it in on a phone and record his lines, and they'll use those phone calls as the recording. So he's got a pretty sweet gig when you get down to it. But that did start the question, like, should these actors start retiring? Should maybe they start moving on? And that actually brought us to the story, which I should have had a better lead up to, where Pamela Hayden, not Anderson, Hayden, who played like Milhouse, Jimbo, and several other characters in the show, she is retiring from the show after 35 years. Now, something says that she has quit the show. No, Harry Shearer quit the show and then was convinced to come back. Pamela Hayden is retiring. She had a nice statement saying, how do you hang up your mic after 35 years? Like, not easy. And all the staff members of the show wished her well and everything like that. So this is an amicable departure, and they have stated that they are going to be recasting the parts of the show rather than retiring them. Because for those of you who do not know, typically when a voice actor for The Simpsons left the show or they died, they would retire the character. Like, I don't know if any kids watching The Simpsons today remembers Troy McClure or a skeezy lawyer. These characters were voiced by Phil Hartman, who was unfortunately shot and killed by his wife. And unfortunately, she shot herself afterwards, so we have no idea why she did it. A very tragic story. They decided to retire the characters. And then Marsha Wallace, who voiced Mrs. Krabappel, she also passed away, and rather than recast, they retired her character. She died off screen. Now, when the voice actress for Maude decided to quit the show, and her name I'm blanking on, I'm very sorry about that. They kind of did it both ways. Her characters were both recast, and they killed off Maude Flanders. So that's why she died in the show, for those who are not aware. There's a very interesting contract dispute story surrounding all that if you want to look it up sometime. So here's the thing. Now we have a person who it's like, you know what? This is not about money. This is not about health that we know of. Maybe she does have health issues and she just doesn't want to do the show anymore. I don't know. But after 35 years, you're allowed to retire. She just wants to move on. And rather than say, okay, here's the thing, folks. This character is retiring. So Bart's best friend, Milhouse, not going to be part of the show anymore. Jimbo, the guy who, he's not a main character, but he's always there. He's gone. I mean, heck, I think she even voices Nelson. Don't quote me on that. I mean, I don't know who voices who off the top of my head all the time. time, but like she voices important characters. And by the way, if I get any of this stuff wrong, I'm sure you Simpsons fans will comment in the comment section if you are listening to this podcast on a place that allows you to leave comments, and I fully encourage you to do so. But it's kind of tough to replace those characters. The show would really, truly not be the same. When those other characters were retired, the show was not the same. And I think because this is someone who is retired and someone kind of realized it's been 35 years since this show's been on the air, I think they realize, you know what? We just got to recast. We got to recast. There's plenty of people out there who sound like the voice characters, and we just got to recast these characters. I mean, they probably won't make the money that the veteran voice actors do, but they'll probably make good money for being on their dream show. Now, that does open the Pandora's box, though. Okay, one actor has retired. Who's going to retire next? Because, guys, here's where we have to start facing some harsh realities. First of all, I want to state that Pamela Hayden, she's still killing it as Milhouse. You wouldn't realize that it's been 35 years. She still sounds like a kid. If she said that I'm ready to do this for another 10 years, I would have believed it. But there are some Simpsons voice actors that I can't confidently say the same thing about. Dan Castellaneta as Homer is starting to show some wear on the vocal performances. Nancy Cartwright as Bart Simpson, like, people used to be surprised to find out that Bart was not voiced by a boy, that Bart was voiced by a woman. People aren't as fooled by that anymore. Bart kind of sounds like a woman now. Whatever Cartwright was able to do to bring out the devilish nature in Bart's male voice is fading. Yeardley Smith still sounds like Lisa. I think she's okay still. But then you have on the worst, the one that everyone is commenting just doesn't sound right anymore. And that is unfortunately not Nancy Cartwright. This is why it's live. It's Julia Kavner as Marge Simpson. She also voices Patty and Selma, and on very rare occasions, Mrs. Bouvier, who is Marge's mom. But Julia Kavner no longer sounds like Marge. I mean, she does, but the voice is rough. Like, it's sounding like a natural Selma and Patty, to the point where it has been reported that producers of The Simpsons show actually use AI technology to alter the vocal performance after it's recorded to try to make it sound more like her in the early days. And I guess, fairly recent episode in terms of Simpsons standards where the Marge character was supposed to sing. Kavner can't really sing anymore. Not that she was a great singer to begin with, but she at least sounded like Marge when she sang. Now she can't even do that, so they wrote into the storyline that she had a different singing voice to get around that fact. Like, Kavner is a prime candidate to retire next. As is Harry Shearer, apparently. Hank Azaria is kind of in the middle. Some of his characters still sound really good, but then you have like Mo Sislak, who just he's not sounding as young as he did. He's starting to sound like an old man in the worst possible way. He no longer, like, his voice was based off Al Pacino, I believe, and now he sounds like Jack and Jill Al Pacino, not Scent of a Woman Al Pacino, if you know what I mean. So this begs the question, like, is Pamela Hayden the first retiree of what's going to be a series of retirees? I think the answer is yes. And now here's the other thing that we have to keep in mind. I don't think Pamela Hayden was making Harry Shearer or Dan Castellaneta money. Like, they have the principal voice actors. This is Castellana, Cartwright, Smith, Kavnar, Cher, and Azaria. These are the people that make the big bucks because they voice not only the main characters, but they voice the majority of the secondary characters as well that are super important to the show. Pamela Hayden, I don't believe she ever had a main character to voice. And while Milhouse is obviously a major supporting character, again, we're going back to Jimbo, because these are the two characters I know for sure she voiced. Jimbo has always been there. He has rarely... I don't even know if I've seen an episode where Jimbo was the focus of the episode. He's always kind of been a foil. And not even to the main cast. It's typically to Principal Skinner. Or I know there was one time Jimbo and his friends decided to torture Ned Flanders because Flanders had the nerve to basically ask them not to loiter outside of his shop, the Leftorium. So she probably does not make as much as the other characters, which probably makes retiring a little bit easier in that regard. But look, if you're making $300,000 an episode and you get 24, 22 episode orders per season, do the math. That's great money. Who wants to walk away from that? Aside from Harry Shearer, apparently. So, here's the thing. If any of those main cast members were to retire anytime soon, Shearer would probably be the most likely candidate. He's been very critical of the quality of the show. He pretty much admits he only does it for the money now, and he's left once. But this time, when he leaves, I think it'll be under the blanket of, I'm retiring. And this time, there's not going to be as much pushback. Because he doesn't sound right anymore. And if the other actors continue to hold on to the what's admittingly very good money, and it's not particularly difficult money to make, I'm starting to wonder if the show will start retiring voice actors for them. Like, again, Kavnar has shown no inkling that she wants to retire, but she doesn't sound good anymore, and Cartwright is losing her vocal ability too. And how do you handle something like that? Do you retire the actors who don't sound right anymore? What if the rest of the cast decide to also leave in solidarity with the cast? What if Disney decides, you know what, like, maybe this is the time we're going to start phasing people out. Like, they're going to start, phasing out some of the other smaller voice actors first, start recasting those, kind of get people used to the fact that, look, we can have new voice actors for The Simpsons, and it'll be fine. The show will sound great. Heck, there's guys on YouTube who do impressive, like, I'm going to voice, 30 Simpsons characters right now. I bet you some of them could probably replace these veterans on the show. Heck, when Mike Henry stepped down from Cleveland Brown, he hired a YouTuber who had made a little bit of his name for himself for imitating Cleveland's voice. So now we have a Cleveland imitator voicing Cleveland. And the amazing thing is, you wouldn't even know they changed the voice actor. It was so seamless. So, thanks to YouTube, you can find some very good imitators. Like, back then, you would have people come in and they would imitate the voice, and then you'd kind of pick the least offensive of those people who came in and auditioned for the role. Now, you can pick these voice actors out of a hat, and they're great. So, I do believe that The Simpsons is gonna sound a little different going forward, but maybe it won't sound as different. I believe that they will get good replacements for these characters. And if one of the characters does have to sound substantially different, I mean, maybe... I know Apu has not really been in the show for a while for reasons that we're not going to get into right now. Some of them obvious, some of them not so obvious. But if he was to come back, if they want to change the way he sounds and maybe write that into the script on why he sounds different, that would be wonderful. Because I highly doubt they're going to want to hire someone to come in and go like, thank you, come again. They're trying to get away from that whole thing. So the big question is, though, is Hayden the first retiree, and will other actors soon follow suit? Or is it going to get to the point where Disney says, we got to retire these people for them, for the sake of the show? So that's, and I realize that for my video listeners, if you're watching the video, that it's been on this ad the whole time. I'm sorry, I should have had this picture of Milhouse up the whole time. That would have made a lot more sense. But again, this is primarily a podcast. Most of you are probably listening to this in the car. By the way, she is credited in 694 episodes of the animated sitcom. I hope she at least got to 700 episodes, because that would have been awesome. So, like, 700 episodes, that's a great run. End it there. But now I'm going to pass the question off to you. What do you think of this announcement? Do you think that other actors are going to retire? Do you think they're going to be retired by the company? And if you had the choice, which voices should be recast? Like, heck, we don't even have to fire all the voice actors. Like, Dan Castellaneta still sounds good as Krusty the Clown and Grandpa Simpson. Maybe it's just time to replace Homer's voice. I don't know. They're like in the middle of the ground there. I would love to know. So if you are listening to this podcast in a place where there is comments, I would love for you to share those comments in the comment section, as well as giving it a like and sharing. And hey, if this is your first time listening and you like what you hear, why don't we make it official? Why don't we subscribe? This podcast is available everywhere where major podcasts are listenable. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Deezer, all that jazz. And I will see you at the movies. And hey, have a happy Thanksgiving. Whatever you feel about the holiday, some of you might have mixed feelings about it. You've probably got a day off. I hope you're spending it either with someone you love, doing something you love, or preferably both. So have a good weekend. Take care. Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters. And I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running. And of course, is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to. It is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.